So I think it's become obvious by now that to most mobile marketers that treating this platform as just another media channel misses at least half of what mobile offers. Understanding it as a kind of unique listening post, I think is going to prove to be one of the most valuable pieces of mobile, that it puts the brand in places it hasn't been before and gets them to see activities that they haven't been able to watch before, that traditional media channels never let them in on. When I open my iPhone on any given day and check Fandango or the Weather Channel or Best Buy or ShopRite, all of these brands have the opportunity to see me interacting with them in ways and at times and places with activities and needs that they've never had privy to before. So understanding, getting a grasp on the power of understanding this new term we've been using lately called the use case is especially powerful, as well as understanding those points of need and the ways in which brands can serve customers at different points than they'd ever been able to before. And also in the process, create real relationships. I think one of the things that David was talking about is really moving a brand from simply interacting with them the way traditional media channels have been able to let them interact with them, and really be able to develop relationships as they are able to be present at moments of need throughout their day and throughout a process. And that is the way in which mobile fills those, what David called those spaces in the relationship between a brand and a customer that are now open and viable places to cultivate. So to take up this question of what brands are learning from their customers via mobile, I've asked Jeff Plaisted, he's the Senior Director of U.S. Sales and Strategy at mobile advertising for Microsoft, to take the lead. Jeff works in exactly this vein, working with brands every day and marketers, trying to understand the resources that they can use in mobile advertising to bring to bear on their relationships with customers. He works especially with the large inventory that he and Verizon now share. He's also a longtime veteran of the mobile space. He goes back to the time when we used to call it wireless. Has worked at AT&T and at SBC. Please welcome Jeff Plaisted.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. I'll try to live up to that introduction. I appreciate it. What we really have here is a number of brands and publishers that are also living mobile every day in the trenches. So, I'm very pleased and honored to have representatives from Intel, Intuit, Beachbody, as well as ESPN and the American Cancer Society. So we have a really broad and diverse panel here, and folks that have a lot of overlapping insights and experience, but also experiences and insights that are unique to them. And I have to tell you, I think I love the theme of the listening tour right now. I think that it's very relevant in the times in which we live. We have a lot of groups right now that are clamoring to be heard, right? From the presidential cycle to Occupy Wall Street to that ever-present challenge of the consumer and how they're changing the way that they communicate and the way that they want to be heard in real time in ways that we don't understand and they might not yet understand it either. So we've all heard the numbers, right? We have 100 million mobile web users right now, over 50% penetration of smartphones, apps growing, usage growing 25% year over year, mobile web growing 33% year over year, and I've got a lot more we'll go over here in a little bit. But what's clear is mobile is on the rise. Right now, some studies showing that it's the third most consumed media behind TV and internet. So the question is, we hear all of this and all of these numbers, but are we truly listening? Are we listening and analyzing and taking that data in real time and adjusting not only marketing programs, but also technology platforms in the way organizations even think about interacting and communicating with their consumers? I would say sometimes yes, many times not, and frankly, it's a challenge. There's no doubt about that. So listening, synthesizing, and acting on that data is happening in a more compressed time frame in general, but especially with mobile, though the way handsets and plans and data throughput are all changing nearly in real time. Consumers are more dependent on mobile for that 24/7 real-time connection to the information, the people, and the brands that they care most about. And let's not forget about m-commerce. When we have companies like eBay reporting between $4 and $5 billion in expected transactions this year, Amazon over $2 billion, Target over $1 billion. It's not just that the eyeballs are there right now, the transactions are taking place. So as I mentioned, we're very fortunate to have a panel of very experienced brands and thoughtful folks. That's what came about during the prep for this panel. People are not only excited about it, but being very thoughtful about how they approach it. And these folks have taken on many of the challenges that are inherent with mobile, and they've learned by listening to their consumers, by analyzing the data and getting ahead of their competition in the market when they can. So they've also learned through experience and curiosity, though, right? And so it's how are they optimizing their programs? How are they optimizing the way their organizations even approach the consumer, let alone their media campaigns and technologies? And best of all, they've agreed to share this insight with us, right? So we're going to dig down deep into the numbers, hold us to that. If you're not getting what you want out of this, if we're being too ethereal or jumping around the subject, nail us to the stage up here. Make sure you get the answers that you want. And without further ado, I'd like to have the panelists spend a few minutes introducing themselves. Start with Brian.
I'm Brian Doyle, ESPN, live and work here in San Francisco, and I oversee our mobile strategy, and I work across sales, marketing, business affairs, product to try to continue to move us forward.
Hi everyone, I'm Allison Gans with Intuit. I work with the consumer group on the TurboTax product on our online advertising team, and I am the mobile marketing manager. Glad to be here.
My name's Annie. I'm with Beachbody, better known for P90X. I'm the online marketing manager there, and I also handle all of our mobile aspects.
And I have to say, he was easy to pick out when he got here. You knew who was from Beachbody.
I'm Miles Orkin, and I'm the National Director for Web and Mobile at the American Cancer Society, and I help us define our strategy and our platform approach primarily in web and mobile channels, and helping us build our mobile programs at ACS. I work in San Francisco.
And you guys know who I am for the last half an hour, so I'll just pass it back to you.
Great. Well, again, thank you to the panelists, and thank you all for your time here today. I'm going to start at a little bit high level and drill down on a couple of areas here. So we'll start with, first, are there specific methods or data gathering that you use to listen to the customer and gather these insights that are specific to mobile? And again, that can be for deploying products, for advertising or marketing campaigns, or even for CRM.
I guess I'll jump there. In terms of our site traffic in general, we've noticed that about over 12% of our traffic is from mobile, and we don't have a mobile optimized site. And so we realized that that's a huge opportunity that we're kind of not really capitalizing on. And kind of on top of that is the aspect that our mobile conversion is about a third of what our PC or desktop conversion is. And so really there's that big gap in the sense that, they are converting on the desktop at a certain rate. So hopefully we can kind of narrow the gap between mobile and kind of the PC or desktop aspect.
Got it. So it sounds like you're kind of in that basic thing. We're just really starting to get into mobile, thinking about the optimized site, but still working on maybe a previous version of what we consider mobile web. That's great, and still getting about 12% of traffic, which is actually fairly impressive for the work that you've done. Has anyone maybe made that conversion recently in using that kind of data? So we have kind of a proof point now and maybe a step forward.
Yeah, so at ACS, we looked at similar numbers in terms of mobile site traffic and conversion rates, and we looked at the market data and overall mobile usage in the market, and that really helped us make the business case. It's hard to innovate in a big nonprofit, but that made a very strong business case, and we have a really large flagship website that's about 7,000 to 10,000 pages of pretty vital cancer-related information. So we're running a little bit below 10% of total site traffic on mobile, and we opted for a solution that mobilized the whole site through this pretty amazing process of capturing it all in a real-time proxy. So we did that. Everyone thought it was nuts.
Go ahead, give your partner a throw here.
Yeah, MoveWeb. They're great. They're a startup in San Francisco. They've done really right by us, we launched the site on October 4th. From January to October, we are looking at about 8% of total site traffic. Since the launch, we've been steady at 12, so it's like a 3 to 4% jump right out of the gate by mobilizing our site. So that was pretty impressive, and it really bore out the proposal that we made, which was it's much better for us with our content, our incredibly deep world of really relevant content, to mobilize it all in a clean and well-presented way, excuse me, rather than looking for more bespoke mobile app-style experiences for our constituents.
That's great. I mean, what we're seeing is 12% kind of non-mobilized, and you see basically it's 4 percentage points, but it's 50% lift, really.
Yeah.
When you think about it when you're mobilizing that site. Any other experiences to share using kind of third-party or site traffic?
So we had an aha moment. The past 2 Sundays, we surpassed 10 million unique visitors to our site. Our desktop site received about 13 million, so it's close. It's about close to 50-50.
Wow.
And this is something we've been tracking for many years, even dating back to when we tried our own MVNO around fan behavior. So I think if you guys are sports fans, hopefully most of you are, you've noticed that we've kind of revamped our site to drive a lot of video consumption. So that's just based on traffic, fan behavior, and how we are seeing our fans kind of day to day engage with our channels.
That's great. I mean, you're 75, 80% roughly on a Sunday, at least, of your users that you see on PC or on mobile. That blows away even Pandora right now, right? Who I think is about 60% of their traffic they see coming across mobile. Facebook roughly a third, and then other publishers anywhere from that, probably 8 to 20%, depending on A, the content, and B, the type of brand that they are. So I think I saw someone else maybe leaning in there a little bit. I don't want to pass that question.
I was just going to speak a little bit to the listening part.
Sure.
In terms of at Intuit TurboTax, we actually really use a lot of data. We leverage it to do a lot of our listening. And we are not only using analytics on our mobile website to track traffic coming in. I think we had a 400% increase in our mobile web traffic tax season over tax season this last year. But we also look to our app analytics as well and use deep analytics within our app. We have an app that you can do your taxes on your phone called SnapTax, and we have a homegrown analytics solution that we look to track every event that's happening within that app to understand what people are doing, where they're dropping off, what challenges they're having. So we use that, and on top of that, we also leverage research a lot to understand third-party research.
Custom research? Okay, third-party research.
Yeah, well, internal and third-party research to understand what our users might need from us in terms of mobile and really dig deep into what are the needs, what is the intent in mobile when it comes to taxes, which can be a little bit of a challenge, and dig deeper and understand that.
Okay, great. I want to come back to that in a little bit. And David?
Yeah, I think it's dependent on what your site provides. You know, to your point with American Cancer Society, 7,000 pages. I can imagine how many people are frantically looking at their phone, either on the way to the hospital or on the way back. With Intel, we probably have 100,000 pages on our site. And God help us if we ever mobilize all 100,000 pages. You know, let's distill that down to just some really vital things that people would be looking for, either in store or on their way to the store, or to get a background on a purchase that they might be ready to make. And with regards to ESPN, like I personally love the Watch ESPN app. That's a fabulous app, and I have a 19-month-old, so I'm watching a lot of football on my phone as I'm walking around with him. So it's, you're tailoring your experience to your customer, which I think is vitally important.
Great. So what we're hearing here is third-party research, a lot of site analytics, in anticipation of how you believe the consumer or your target client, at least, or customer at least, will be using that content. So let's maybe take a look back a few years, right? Couple of years ago, how you approached mobilizing the platform or your offerings, has it changed today, right? Like, where does mobile fit into that process today versus a few years ago? And I guess we're really talking about more of a platform and technology than we are advertising here.
I think it's changed from a test and learn platform to a must-have platform for sure. Again, to my earlier point, when Joe asked me in a great interview he did with us over the iAd, he asked, why would you advertise on something that didn't have Intel inside? I'm going to advertise on something that is going to get to my audience where they are in an immediate great display. So, it's understanding your customer's usage behavior and realizing that mobile device is not going away at all.
Anyone else on that? I mean, and let's open it up even to tablets when we consider about the mobile platform here, right? I mean, we got about 11% of the market now with a tablet, and predicted to be over a quarter of internet users in about 2 years, excuse me. So, how are you thinking, I guess others, how are you thinking about deploying mobile and leveraging it for either marketing or CRM versus how you were a couple years ago? Allison, you got a great
I'll
one,
take
I know
it.
you do.
Just kind of building on what David was just saying, it really was a couple years ago. It was that test and learn. We put out an app a couple years back called Tap to Track, and really did that for the sake of, we knew we needed to understand the App Store. We needed to understand the process. We want to put something out there just to go through the process and really understand it. And now 2 years later, we've declared mobile first at Intuit. And really what that means is we understand that many of people's first contact with us and experiences with us is going to be through the mobile platform first. So when we're developing our products and we're developing our experiences, we're thinking with that mindset of, that's going to be their first experience, that's going to be their first touch point, and really everything should be developed from there with that mindset. So it really is the mobile first thought.
Great. Well, yeah, I think you just made a number of people's days in the audience right there. Because when we think from the panel, we've gone from mobile as a nice to have to mobile as a must have to mobile first. Before we leave this subject, is any other comments from other folks that want to give you a chance to sound in?
Just from the nonprofit perspective, where things sometimes can move a little bit slowly. 2 years ago, it was just not on anybody's radar screen at all, and the trigger point for nonprofit was the fundraising that happened on phones in relation to tsunami relief and then the earthquake in Haiti, and so that woke people up. You can't raise money for cancer. Cancer is not an earthquake, so using that text to give channel doesn't work so great, but it made everybody start to think, and so we spent about a year just educating within the enterprise, and all of a sudden it clicked, and now it's a priority, and we're mobilizing our main site, all of our event sites. We have a massive SMS effort happening, and so when the light bulb went off, it went off for leadership, and now we get it and we understand it's a priority again to be where people. We want to be there for people, and no one wants to think about cancer, but when you need to think about it, you need the information right then. And so we realize that now, and we realize that it's we're a volunteer-driven organization too, and you need to activate on your passion when you want to. So
I guess to add to Miles' point, I mean, Beachbody, we're traditionally a TV company, so we're like a traditional company. So similarly, 2 years ago, mobile was, not even a thought. So I think for us, we realized that there's like a missing loophole in the aspect that so many people have phones now. Something like 50% saturation with smartphones now. And so we realized that, a lot of people are actually watching infomercials at night, have their phone or desktop or tablet next to them before they sleep. And so we realized that, not everyone's going to be calling in. And so it's really trying to figure out, okay, how do we close that loop? And kind of mobile is really kind of the key for us now in the sense of understanding that we're not going to move away from TV, but then how do we further enhance that experience for them?
Great. So it's that always-on experience and recognizing. We probably see this every day in our work lives, right? Like, how many times do you just wish somebody would pick up the phone and give you a call, but you have 4 or 5 emails from them. So you're recognizing that consumer behavior of that. Yeah, your phone's there, but you might not call on it. So how do I use that as a touch point for DR? Sure.
I think Miles makes a really interesting point where it's not just the mobile web, it's not just an app, but take advantage of some of the more simple technologies out there like SMS. Everybody can SMS, and you referenced the earthquakes and the floods and the tsunamis. It's amazing how much penetration an event like that gets through a simple message exchange like text. And I think brands can really use text in a way that is pretty powerful, and I don't see a lot of brands doing it well right now.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's a really great point. We send over 1 billion text messages a month, so we're all about serving the fan. Interestingly enough, we're a media company, and we're all about monetizing that, but we actually do not monetize our messaging. So that channel, and there is overhead that comes with it, is 100% just to serve, the fans. So it's
Careful, you're
interesting
going to have
our
info and
approach
other
there.
folks on your waiting for you at the back of the room after this to help you monetize that.
I have to just jump in to agree that I think SMS is a key part of your mobile marketing mix, and we're really trying to build like a mobile ecosystem that people can thrive in, but SMS, you have to get it right. You can't use it the way you use regular email, and you can't use it the way you use social. Even social media, you can be a little bit more sort of, they call it astroturfing as opposed to grassroots and nonprofit when you use social media to do a lot of push. With SMS, you have to be their friend in SMS, and you have to give them stuff they need. So we use it. We have this big campaign happening with volunteers where we have 5,200 Relay for Life events across the country. They all get their own SMS campaign, push campaign that they run themselves. It's totally decentralized, and they deliver logistical information. But that was the aha there was when we were starting to build an SMS program, we figured they'd want a national text alert program and text in to find out an event near you. But we went out, this was a non-data driven big course adjustment where we went and asked the field, the volunteer base, and said, what do you want with text messaging? They said, we don't want any of that. We want to be able to tell people when the bake sale is, when the team captain meeting is, and that it's raining on Friday, so make sure you bring your umbrella. And they were so thankful to get it. And we did a pilot with 250 events, one opt-out. One.
Out of 250 events.
250 events. So I don't know
Wow.
the total volume. The list wasn't huge. It was a pilot program, but literally it was everyone who opted in stayed opted in because all they got was stuff they wanted to know about the event, and it was
being
totally
smart, yeah.
localized. And so we're doing it for all the events this fall. 5,200 events.
That's great. Any data points on that to share? And I know that's a really tough one, right? Like how much more participation you got, or
We looked, and we don't have I don't have real numbers, but we think that the events that were the most prolific with their texting had a year-over-year improved performance. And it's hard to say, but we've looked at some and think that we might be able to make that argument.
so here the listening is really you're listening to the consumers or not consumers, your partners.
Yeah.
Right. And making it easier for them to participate in the events that you're
Yeah,
doing. So it's there's that direct listening happening there, and even though maybe not with the hard data, you're sure seeing the kind of the soft benefits. It sounds like.
Yeah, and we structured the whole program based on the feedback we got from our. And I guess for us, they really are. They're constituents, but they're consuming what we offer, and they actually helped us deliver our programs. So they're like your acolyte type customers, and yeah.
Right. So with that deep penetration of SMS, relatively deep penetration now of the web, and you've got roughly 40% of consumers that are saying, hey, when I've seen a television ad, I've actually picked up my phone to follow up on that. And almost that many, about 37%, saying I saw an outdoor ad or a print ad or a radio ad, and I picked up my phone to follow up on that. So with that kind of as the context, how are you folks using mobile with other mediums, and with what kind of results?
We kind of made a big bet many years ago that it's all about multimedia, and we took that to the marketplace, and so far so good. I think with everything we do, mobile comes first and foremost, hand in hand with TV, hand in hand with digital. We're seeing about 80% of the mobile business that we write comes from a multimedia extension. There is a mobile-only marketplace that's somewhat growing as well, but that's kind of where we are. It's all about the multi-screen approach, and the fascinating data point that I recently learned from Dave Clutty, who leads our research department, was 58% of the people that are watching on Sunday, the big screen, whether it's the NFL games, what have you, they have their phone in their hand as companion. So I like to say we have companion with scale. Pretty big data point there.
Yeah, absolutely. Any others? I mean, that's a very encouraging stat. I mean, look, at Microsoft, we're big proponents of the multi-screen program. Obviously, we deal mostly in digital, a little bit of television. And I do have to say, I mean, even years ago, ESPN did a really good job of bringing together print, TV, radio, and online. So it's encouraging to see you guys are seeing the same kind of success in mobile.
So with TurboTax, we're heading into our season here soon, where we pump a lot of TV advertising through the channels, and we've recognized that now when people see those ads, a call to action that we have them do is go to turbotax.com, and a lot of that this year is probably going to come into a mobile device to learn more, to understand a little bit more about TurboTax. So really preparing to capture that traffic, which may be our biggest traffic driver, is that kind of direct load on a phone, either search in mobile or organic activity through mobile, and really preparing our mobile website to handle that traffic and serve up the best experience possible, and understanding the intent when people come there as to when you're coming to TurboTax on a mobile phone, what is it that you want to do? Do you want to start your taxes? I'm not sure. Do you want to do something else? So really preparing ourselves for that.
Okay, great. So it sounds like you're in kind of prepare mode, right? Like, here's what we expect. And it is an unfair question to ask you, how about this year? Because you're really just starting in the next couple of months. But any other folks that have seen maybe lifts and or measured results when combining the mediums?
We don't do as much, like, our advertising is minimal compared to
That's fair.
the other folks next to me, but we do one big brand campaign that runs at different periods in the year, and the mobile, we do think there's a couch factor happening with that campaign, and so we have, I know that our digital spend that's sort of the corollary to the TV campaign has shifted a lot toward mobile units, because that's where we're getting the strongest response. And we think, again, we have celebrities singing, we're the official sponsor of birthdays, and because we save lives and create more birthdays, and so we have celebrities singing the happy birthday song in our TV spots, and so that, you see that on the couch and you do respond. So we have redirected the way we structure our digital spend to be much more focused on mobile.
Great.
So.
Those are great ads, by the way. One of the things that we do is when we create we don't really buy single pages in magazines anymore. It's just kind of the trend that Intel has gone away from, and I think a lot of the industry has gone away from that. What we do is we create an integrated package. We just did one this year with Condé Nast around people's passion points. One was fashion, one was Epicurean. So we brought in Richard Blais and Rebecca Minkoff and created an experience that lived through The New Yorker, Glamour, and Wired, both in a print campaign from an advertorial perspective, but also in digital and a pretty robust mobile tablet experience. And the things that you can do on the tablet are pretty amazing from an advertising perspective. You can really bring people into an experience and have them have a connection with somebody like Richard or like Rebecca to understand how they're using technology in their jobs. And their jobs are obviously very visible and things that are important to us from a passion point perspective. If we can create an experience that shows how people are using technology by immersing them in a platform that they have in front of them on the couch, and it's entertaining, that's a great way to do it. It's way better than reading it in a magazine.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're taking advantage of the emotional connection just from the touch on the tablet, right? Okay, so maybe to talk a little bit about results, I'll tee it up, and I think Brian has some of this as well, but our experience in working with PC, gaming on Xbox, advanced television through our IPTV Play, as well as mobile. We're seeing with clients like Tom Shoes, you'll see from a 1-channel exposure, 2% action, all the way up, if you're across all 4 channels, a 2,200% increase, right, to 44% of folks who are visiting sites, making transactions, things like that. Ace Hardware is another good example of actually measuring traffic to stores and seeing an 8% increase when they're kind of playing with 2 screens versus 1. And almost all of our advertisers seeing that double or more in brand measurements, which again, maybe not be transactions, but when you can move someone from perception of 20% to over 40% of the crowd if they're exposed to mobile and PC, I think that's pretty powerful. The Tom's example I use and a couple of others are in the thousands percent. They're almost so large that they're hard to believe. So any other examples here of how brands are making an impact either on commerce or within their branding metrics in key campaigns by using multiple screens, multiple meetings with mobile?
Yeah, that's the core of everything we do is the multi-screen, and since we have our team out there, selling through multimedia, the common question is, why do we have to add mobile? We already get your audience on TV. And same goes for our print team and our digital team. So there are some incredible learnings that we presented about, I guess, close to a year ago from our cross-platform study. We call it XP, around the World Cup. And it was a phenomenal study. It showed brand recall, purchase intent, word of mouth, all go up when you include mobile into the media mix. That's huge. And then we heard, well, that's World Cup. That's every 4 years. That's a special situation. So we decided to take the same cross-platform study and applied it to college football and the NFL last fall, and we found the same results. It's almost like I was, behind the scenes working in my research department, because literally the mobile story was fascinating. And so I think a lot of folks perceive the mobile channel to be very transactional, and of course there's so much you can do, to Jeff's point with eBay and the $4 billion that they're projecting. But at the end of the day, there's also an incredible branding opportunity, and that's what we're finding, whether that's purchase intent, brand recall, word of mouth. All those metrics go up with the inclusion of mobile.
Any range about how you see them go
It's
up?
pretty, when you remove mobile, it goes from it drops like 20 to 30 points.
Wow.
Can you send me that study?
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to getting down to San Diego. It's one of my favorite places in the world.
And delivered. That's great.
And to see you, of course.
Any others kind of using multi-screen? I mean, we've probably got 3 here. We can probably move on, but I want to give folks an opportunity if you've got something that you want to.
I mean, for us, it's just difficult to track.
Yeah.
I mean, we know it's multi-screen, but I mean, in terms of how many people viewing and then going to their mobile device, and that's for us kind of really difficult to track. But I mean, we do see lifts, generally, especially incremental lifts, on top of just kind of what we do with TV. We supplement. We do a lot of offline stuff, print, radio, but in terms of like a real one-to-one relationship for us, it's really something quite, I guess, one of our biggest challenges that we're trying to, fight through and figure out, well, how does the web, how's the mobile kind of work complementary to kind of our TV aspect and viewing experience. And so, I mean, I don't really have stats or anything behind that, but, for us, again, it's just, I think we have a very different business model from everyone here, in the sense that, we're one of the biggest DRTV advertisers, in the U.S.
Okay. So, I'll cut to the chase on that. I think, both Annie and Allison have a couple of good examples of how you're using mobile to complement the offering that you have, and maybe speak a little bit to that. From a tax perspective, you might be counterintuitive, but I think Intuit is onto something here, it sounds like. And then also with P90X, how they're extending that experience, right? I mean, you put a challenge out to people. Like, if I come and buy your product, yes, it's self-improvement, but the challenge is there. So it sounds like you guys are also doing some things that make it easier on the consumer. So why don't we kind of come back, I mean, if you want to talk to that a little bit, and then I'd love to come back and hear what you guys are hearing about taxes too.
Yeah, I mean, so the biggest thing for us that we realize, and we have a really strong social presence. Through all our brands, we have over 1 million fans. And so kind of listening to them and then kind of understanding the marketplace, some advice from Apple as well. We're about to roll out our app finally. And it's really, again, as you mentioned, a complement to the videos itself, the program itself. And it's really just there to supplement kind of your entire experience. Being able to take that with you mobily as well. I know a lot of people in general, I mean, they're DVDs. You have your laptop with you generally if you're traveling for business, like probably a lot of you are. It's something simple to take with you. But in terms of being able to track your workouts, track what you're eating, connecting with other people that are doing similar programs as you are, it's for us a way to kind of bridge that gap and really giving a full experience that you can kind of, I guess, really, again, track.
So next year we're gonna have you up here and pin you down on what percentage of users actually kind of took you up on that app, and how are they using it?
Yeah,
I think that's going to be fascinating.
I mean, for us, yeah, we put a lot of time and resources to it, and so we have a lot of back-end tracking that we've really made sure is in place to kind of understand what the user is doing within the app, and obviously how many are purchasing it as well. But I mean, the important part is how they're interacting with the app, and we took a lot of. We've done a lot of surveys, market research, a ton of focus groups to kind of really realize what does a user want with kind of that'll help them have a better experience with our products.
So the investment there in third-party, not only site analytics, but now also focus groups. So that's I mean, you're listening in all the ways you can possibly listen, it sounds like. So
Yeah.
again, you're going to share results with us next year, right?
Definitely, if they
Great.
give it to me.
Awesome. And then Allison, I think this was fascinating and hopefully interesting to you folks as well. This is one of the best points, I think, during the prep calls about understanding how people are starting to use their phones with text.
Yeah, so we really think about mobile as actually in two ways. Mobile web is a little bit different than we think about our mobile apps. Our mobile web experience, we're starting to think about as being more of a complementary experience to our desktop experience. Whereas we're driving traffic to the web and or to the mobile web, and really not seeing, although still seeing some transactions or filings taking place, not seeing a ton of transactions taking place, but seeing a lot of activity happening on the mobile website. So more of those experiences that are going to move you along the process to eventually then go start on your computer and finish your taxes. So estimating your taxes, viewing some product info, checking your e-file status, those complementary type experiences that are going to move you through the funnel. We're seeing our mobile app in a little different way because it is very transactional. Where people can actually start and finish on their phone in a very easy way. So
Go over that just a little bit. I mean, I think
Yeah,
it was.
I want to see how people file their taxes on their phone. That would be very interesting.
Oh, funny you ask. So basically, a little sales pitch for SnapTax here. You take a picture of your W-2, and it pulls in all the data and completes your taxes for you. You answer a couple questions, and literally you can get your taxes done in about 5 minutes. So for an easy filer, it's great. You can start to finish on your phone in 5 minutes. If you have a little bit more complex of a tax situation, it's going to push you to the online experience, but still very easy to get that data in there. It's a really wow type app. So that we are looking at as very transactional based, and we can push filings through that. Whereas mobile web is a little bit more informational and a little bit more complementary because the experience to start to finish your taxes on your phone isn't quite mobile optimized yet. So a couple different ways, web versus app, we're looking at it a little bit differently.
So and I know the numbers, the guidance you got from your PR team kind of changed in the last week, but can you share us like maybe baseline where you were and then
in terms of
the
number of people,
for example, yeah.
that actually filed their taxes on their phone? Well, our goal last year was to drive 350,000 app downloads, and we far exceeded that. So I can say that. We have far exceeded our filing goals.
Did you have a goal on percentage of those people who would file?
We did, and we exceeded that goal by at least double, not triple. So it was, people were willing to do their taxes on their phone. We thought they would be willing to do it with SnapTax because it is so easy. We were a little bit surprised by the actual browser experience, that people were willing to do that as well because it's not mobile optimized right now.
So you're making them work for it even.
We were making them work for it, pretty hard too, and they did it. So what that tells us is people...
Who says people aren't passionate about taxes? Although I'm thinking this might be a lot of the people getting a refund, so they're trying to do it.
They want to get in there, and some of the thought is this may be someone's primary device. It might be the device they have. It's easier just to go through the experience than to go, find a computer somewhere or go to an internet cafe or do whatever you have to do to get it done. So that was quite surprising. So even a subpar experience, people are willing to go through. So let's give them a completely optimal experience
Sure.
and see what happens next year.
We'll hold you to numbers next year too. And so this kind of brings up a point. Any other of these? Consumers are using mobile in ways that you haven't even anticipated. It's basically what some of that says to us. Any other great aha moments from other panelists on what consumers are actually doing or willing to do that just blew away your expectations or maybe your organization's expectations?
I think people are willing to buy, and I think we're seeing a big transition there. We talked about, you mentioned the $4 billion in transactions on eBay. It's amazing to me that people are willing to take their phone out of their pocket and over a cellular connection, make a fairly substantial investment in products that they're purchasing. That actually blows me away. It doesn't feel, from a PC guy's perspective, it doesn't feel as secure. So it actually surprises me to hear that stat, but I think it's great.
It's fascinating on what people are willing to buy. One of our clients, a major retailer, put up a mobile site about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago now, and and said, well, you know what, we're going to move a lot of toilet paper, a lot of these like low ticket, kind of just low, items that people don't want to deal with. They can have them delivered to their home, just real quick hits here and there. And what they found was the people that were actually buying, $5,000-$6,000 electronics, so larger ticket items certainly than a couple of rolls of toilet paper, and that just blew them away. And then it also was a task for them, right? They had to go and mobilize the rest of that content. Some of the stuff was coming up on offers and sales, and that wasn't, organically making it into the site. And they spent the next 12 months prepping for this past holiday season, this coming holiday season, basically saying if they're going to buy TVs and they're going to buy computers, we better be there for everything that we have. I think that's fascinating. Miles, I probably cut you off there.
No, it's fine. Yeah, so I was just going to add 2 verbs. So they will also donate, which is sort of a parallel to buying. And we found that very, very clearly when we looked at our web analytics before we mobilized, and I don't have, it's too new to have real income numbers, but the conversion rate was really low on mobile donations, but people were trying to do it. The conversion rate was much better on tablet giving. And the interesting thing was that the average gift size on tablets was higher than the average gift size on the desktop site. So our projections for mobile, just getting up to the tablet, the pre-mobilization tablet conversion rate will be a big lift income-wise, and we consider that new money because in the world of fundraising, so that's an expression, right? New money, and I don't know if it is in for-profits. I've worked in nonprofit for so long. I don't know how you describe it, but it's mobile. You can often describe it as new money, whether they're making a text-to-give gift or whether they're hitting your mobile donor form. So we have very high hopes for the form now that it's mobilized because they're trying hard on a terrible user experience on the phone and making it. A lot of them are making it work, and then we'll start to fold in some other stuff too, like PayPal Express and other things that are real mobile, extremely mobile friendly. So they'll donate, and the other thing is they'll read. They'll read a lot of content on the mobile phone. So we spent a lot of time initially working on use cases for how can we streamline our content? What do we pick and choose? But how can you say, well, we'll talk about breast cancer, but we won't talk about bladder cancer because we just can't. We don't want to build too big. We couldn't do it. We literally have an A to Z drop-down menu of cancer types and information for everything. So and when the proof already is in the metrics, which is if you put it out there on the mobile, they sit there and they read, and the search patterns are different. The terms that they look for are different on mobile, but don't be afraid to put a lot of content on the mobile web and in mobile apps because people are those consumption patterns are diverting into these little devices, and they'll read even serious if it's what they want, then they'll consume it. Just make sure you give them what they want when they want it.
You just said a key statement. Give them what they want when they want it. I mean, that's everybody's charter now, right?
Yep, absolutely. And so, to throw some kind of percentage points on that, I think one of the things that you're hitting at, maybe a little bit less Allison because of the way it's delivered, but what we're seeing for search in particular in mobile is that it has a much higher commerce intent and a much higher local intent. Now that's pretty logical, but then you dig through and you see the numbers, and it almost doubles, right? So if I'm on a PC search, it typically takes you about 70% of consumers spend about a month, doing their research and going from the initial query to I'm satisfied my query. That happens in about an hour on mobile, and what we see from the Bing logs that we have through Yahoo and MSN and other partner reach. And so then you dig into kind of local intent, right? Like I want to do something nearby. It goes from about 16% to about 27% from PC to mobile. And then commerce, about 17% to 31%. So it almost doubles, meaning I'm on my mobile phone and I'm searching and I want to buy something. Now, almost a third of those consumers want to make that purchase with that search. And again, 70% of those are going to get through that in an hour. So I think that maps really well to what you're kind of saying about making all of this information, although it's not commerce, the donation is commerce, and the information reading is there, making it available, to your point, when they want it, where they want it. A little bit of a soapbox there, sorry. So let me break a little bit. This may be a little unfair for a couple of the panelists, but we have, about 50% of smartphone users are saying, hey, I'm using my phone, or more than 50%, about 60%, I'm using my phone in the aisle. And about half of those folks that are abandoning purchases in aisle say they do it because of pricing transparency now, and they're using their handset. I found it online or somewhere else at a better price. So I think that makes a case for how do you put together mobile-specific offers, and we're not there yet, but when you're really getting to that geo-aware point, you know someone's in your store. Has anyone dabbled with couponing or offers in mobile-specific and seen any difference in kind of uptake and just business results, I guess, in general, on mobile couponing or offers versus other?
I think it's hard for an ingredient brand. For us, we're not a tangible product that you can pick up and hold and see, but we're in a lot of products that people are consuming within a brick and mortar environment or buying online. So pricing transparency is great for us because they're still buying a product that has our component in it. We want to make sure that it's easy for them to understand the value of our product within the end product that they're buying. So we work with a lot of retailers like Best Buy and mobile applications like Shopkick to do a little bit of geofencing. So when they walk into the store and they've opted into a device or an application like Shopkick, we can present them with an offer that says, hey, we know you're here. We know you're probably ready to buy. Here's a little nudge to get to the counter and actually transact.
So any metrics to share or baseline versus?
So
instead of like 20% of users, maybe 10% more? Or?
I love our retail partners. It's really hard to get those metrics from them.
And I'm going to jump in and start off with, yes, it's hard to get those metrics, but I'm going to build on that. We actually work closely with the retail team to kind of do some of these tests and what we can do to really present the right experience in aisle when people are looking at our desktop product and retailers. And we did a Shopkick test and saw some results from that. But I think we just got some learnings in terms of people are willing to pull out their phone in the aisle and engage. So whether that be a coupon experience to give them a little bit of a nudge and really close the loop on that sale, or whether it be a mobile web experience or provide someone, if they're doing a search on their phone in aisle, what is that experience that they're looking for that's going to help them make that shopping experience, whether it be reviews or information about the product, a video maybe, that's going to just help them make the decision right there and have that experience there when they're looking for it at the moment they're looking for it. So.
And use the technology that's available to you to make it easy on them. If they snap a QR code to initiate a video, even better than, I'm all thumbs on my phone. Typing in a mobile URL is not always the easiest thing to do in aisle. So make it easy.
Absolutely.
Great. Miles?
Not that we're in the retail aisles much, but But we apply. We have a lot of real world community events, and we try to use mobile for this sort of acquisition level activity. And I think that if they're active in the channel and they have the phone out in the aisle, that you're just making sure that your data flow is capturing that as an acquisition of some kind could lead, because that's a pretty I would say people who are already doing that activity in the aisle, they're self-selecting, and it's a pretty high affinity group for this type of engagement. So even if they're not completing the sale there, if you can get them to raise their hand as those individuals and get onto your file, then that can pay off later. And so it's an initial acquisition point, especially even with SMS and QR, I think.
Great.
Just get them in.
So we've got about 3, 4, 5 minutes here. Clearly, sounds like there are commonalities on how you're leveraging mobile as a platform and even for advertising and marketing. Is there anything that maybe you think is uber unique to the way your organization has leveraged mobile that you'd like to share with the audience? Start with Brian. And it can be what you're really, either how you're using it as a publisher might be a little different. Maybe it's the results that you've seen too for your clients.
I think mobile can become a little confusing or a little overwhelming to a lot of people when it comes to the operating systems and the carriers and how it fits in and who to work with. So we try to remove all the technology aspect of it, and we just, at the end of the day, we're just trying to serve guys 18 to 49, whether it's an app, a mobile web, video with watch, or messaging. So I think that's our approach. We try to keep it as simple as possible. I do believe the biggest void in the marketplace, in closing, is creative resources. We're not a creative shop, yet 50% of the business we book, we're doing creative. So it's a little challenging. I think it's something that there's an opportunity for folks in the room to think about around creative, and because at the end of the day, rich media is here. It's now. It works. It's great engagement numbers, and it kind of lends itself to the strength of mobile, which is utility. So I may not want to watch that video right now. I may not want to download the coupon right now. I may not want to find the store right now. But give them the choice of making 1, 2, and 3, and you'll see engagement rates go up, and it's pretty fascinating.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, we've seen probably 2x to 6x increase in either store locator or offers, right, when you're using rich media versus standard media, because that experience is happening at the front door, so to speak, so your conversions are much higher. Anyone else?
So I think that one thing that's unique about American Cancer Society is we're a grassroots organization that's about 100 years old, and we're trying to engage with the general public to help save lives, help people stay well, help people get well, and find cures and fight back against cancer. So when we think about mobile, we want to mobilize our content offering, but we're really trying to use mobile to mobilize our supporters as well. So it's a very, we consider it an activation medium, and we want to use it in a way that gets our supporters and the people who want to engage with us excited and literally active. And so mobilize to us doesn't just mean technology, it means people.
Great.
I think that's a great point, actually. And you guys have a harder job ahead of you than the rest of us, so I applaud what you're doing. I don't think we're doing many things that are unique. I think we're doing one thing really well, and that's being consistent. We've jumped into the platform. We're not jumping out. It is a crux of our media plan, quarter over quarter and year over year. We won't stop doing mobile.
Great. So to wrap that up, we've been leaving room for a couple of questions if we can. What we're seeing is mobilizing sites and technology, making the information available. You're seeing upticks of 50% of engagement. Additional traffic, that's more time that consumers are spending with your brand just because you have the platform there available for them. We're seeing results in branding metrics from ESPN, Microsoft, and others when using multiple screens together. And again, anywhere from maybe 100% lift to up above that to well over 1,000% lift. We're hearing that be there where the customer is when they want you. Transactions are happening, even if it's donations versus actual commerce. And then that people will do, the consumer will behave in ways that we can't anticipate. And it's this, if you make it available, the things that you will learn, the places, the Dr. Seuss, to the places you will go with your consumer, your target that you just didn't anticipate. So I want to thank everyone here for your time. I really appreciate the work ahead of it. Some really great stuff in here. I should have held you maybe to more some percentage and more hard data, but maybe the audience will help us with that. Steve, do we have time for 1 or 2 questions?
Yeah, we do.
Were we that comprehensive, or is everybody asleep?
Hi, this is for Brian. In terms of, Pablo from HP. In terms of content, how much are you creating specifically for mobile versus desktop, and how much do you leverage between both, and how you see that evolving?
Mobile's all about snack size content, sound bites. So we're programming for mobile. We have a newsroom up in Bristol. It's like close to 100 people that are literally programming the content for the mobile handsets, apps, the videos that we shoot. So it's a pretty big undertaking. We're not just taking what we do in display, digital, and force feeding it into the mobile handset, because at the end of the day, that time spent, believe it or not, it's around 11 minutes per visit, and they're watching a quick video, they're going to Gamecast. So it's a major undertaking.
Brian, how about brand poaching? How many people who are using ESPN mobile are actually watching somebody else's network? Does that matter in the way you program?
No, not at all, because we do the game around the game better than anybody, in my opinion. So the interesting thing is on Sunday, we actually don't have any live NFL games. They're on CBS, Fox, and NBC. Yet 10 million people came to our site on a Sunday to follow the game around the game, whether that's fantasy stats, news, scores, highlights. So no, we don't. At the end of the day, we'd like to have all the rights and have it all on our air, but that's not real. It's not realistic. So we're just trying to serve that guy 18 to 49, whether it's a Major League Baseball game like the World Series, or whether it's an NFL Sunday game that's on Fox or NBC.
Thanks. Greg Tsar from Rogers Ventures, the VC arm of Rogers. Question for you related to the data streams coming from social, local, and mobile. I'm wondering if you have any sort of aspirations to merge those data sets, if you will, in some sense, to really do a little bit more targeted. Because, Brian, in the case you're mentioning, you've got feeds from social aspects, you've got a mobile advertising sales force, and one would argue you have some local information, you know where they are. Just interested in sort of a view from David and Brian on that, as well as Jeff.
I think we're already doing that. And I think, I think ESPN's doing that really well. For us, it's a little bit harder because we don't have those people actively opting into an app like Watch ESPN or Gamecast. It's more one-off apps. I mentioned the Intel Insight app. That's a little bit local. We did a mobile web experience prior when we were talking about our WiMAX technologies, where we got people to opt in on Foursquare and Twitter and YFrog, so we could see where they were, and we were merging that social stream with the local stream, and we had people on the street actually handing out prizes around WiMAX in certain locations. I think we're just at the beginning of that. I don't think there are many people that are doing it really well. I think you guys probably have a pretty good bet in place with what you're doing.
So, yeah, I mean, the good thing about some of our apps that have just had tremendous success with mass scale and adoption is the guys are telling us who they like, and they're opting in as to where they are. So I think we're just starting to scratch the surface with local and mobile. It's definitely one of our corporate priorities. And if you have any ideas to how to amplify it, I'm all ears.
So, I'd say for Microsoft, we're when we talk social, mobile, and local, search is that kind of that connection point for us in a lot of ways, right? The deal we have with Facebook, and on the PC side at least, if you do a search on a product, you'll see how many of your friends have liked that brand or have commented on that brand. That's a way for us to tie that in. We're starting to port that over to mobile now for more of like, hey, how do you plan a night out? How do I go from point A to what's around me based on either interests that have either been expressed over time or directly maybe within that query string in that search. Mobile and search, we're really starting to pull together. Mobile and social, we're starting to pull together a little bit more. It's not as advanced right now in the PC, but again, with the numbers that we see and the behavior that we see, we'll see a tighter alignment of that. Frankly, what's becoming a challenge for us is very similar to the rest of the industry, which is how do you get to hyperlocal at scale? Am I going to deliver to you more than 50 people around a specific location? We thought we had that figured out for the fall time frame, but it's not operating to the specs and the expectations that we have as a company like Microsoft. So you'll see something you'll see something more for us coming over after the holiday season, tying that together more tightly as well.
Jeff, panel, thank you very much.
Thank you.